2.
A vague disclaimer is no one's friend. This podcast will look at episodes in relation to Buffy and Angel as a whole, and therefore contains spoilers for the entirety of both series. If you haven't seen all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel the series, go and watch them before you listen to this. Remember, you've been warned.
The hardest thing in this world is to live in it.
That's why there's us, champions. We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
It's Tuesday, so it must be time to return to the Hellmouth. We're going through the Buffyverse episode by episode and a look back at Joss Whedon's iconic shows. I'm Emcee, and I'm here with...
It's Andie.
It's David.
And I'm Logan.
This week we are talking about Dopplegangland, which is episode 16 of season 3. It originally aired February 23rd, 1999, and was written and directed by Joss Whedon himself. And that's I always forget that Joss Whedon wrote and directed this one. Like, I mean, it makes sense. Like, actually, when you watch the episode, it's like Joss's fingerprints are all over this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always just used to him doing, like, the landmark episodes, so...
Well, I suspect this is going to be one of the few episodes of recent times where we're not going to have lots of problems with it. So, I think that's a landmark.
This is also a strange episode in that this is, like, one of the only sequel episodes that they have. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, certainly Buffy has ongoing plots, but The Wish was a one-shot, kind of self-contained thing. And this is a direct sequel to that, and it's a one-shot, self-contained thing. Mm-hmm. So,
well,
yeah, I would...
It does, I mean, it does bring Anya back.
It does bring Anya back, but...
Which will become a thing.
Well, I mean, like, both The Wish and this do have nods to the ongoing plots of the season, the series, but the main storyline is basically its own thing. So,
True.
So yeah, these two episodes are together, and this one they made a sequel to it just because Joss really enjoyed Vamp Willow. So,
who doesn't?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've actually always had a theory that Joss kind of had a thing for Allie back in the day, but she wasn't into him.
Well,
I can totally see that.
Well, who doesn't?
She's not my taste.
Fine.
But that doesn't mean she's not someone else's taste, so, you know.
David's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
She's mine.
True. Sarah Michelle Gellar is way more my taste.
So we start out this episode with the first appearance of D'Hoffryn in the series.
Yep.
I love D'Hoffryn. He's so...
Oh, D'Hoffryn's great. He'll get better, actually. Here he's kind of just...
a dude.
He's there to be there. He starts to get interesting when we get to something blue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interestingly, he does get a name in the credits.
Yes.
I suspect they may have thought we might bring this guy back.
Well, they often name a lot of the demons, even if we don't hear it on screen. So I think this... I mean, I don't know how much they knew. They probably at this point knew that they were going to bring Anya back for the prom, but I don't know if they knew if they were going to bring her back for season 4 yet. Mm-hmm. So this was probably just Anya needs to be talking to some like demon-y dude. So
I don't know. Based on the dialogue in this episode, I think Joss and the writing staff were already in love with Emma Caulfield because they give her some really funny lines and stuff to do. And I don't know. I thought. I can't tell you for sure, but I speculate that they kind of were thinking about bringing her on as a cast member, because why wouldn't you? She's hilarious.
Yeah, as far as Emma's concerned, yeah, I'm on board with that. Just because they give her some depth and they give her, and it's weird because her personality changes, in my opinion, pretty drastically.
Yeah, definitely.
They give her that snarky, Scooby, but in a pissed way attitude. And as far as D'Hoffryn's concerned, it feels like he also gets a pretty dramatic attitude shift. So I don't know. I feel like they were planning for him to be a one-off, and maybe Anya's character arc as an ex-demon not be much of a plot point, but it just wound up being that way. It's just both of these characters who we see again and maybe we weren't that nobody was planning on them being back, do have such huge character changes.
Well, I mean, of course, also Andy Umberger. Andy Umberger.
Umberger, yeah.
Is one of Joss's guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like
He's the hat trick, right? He's one of the first hat tricks.
I believe he is one of the hat tricks. Yes, he's in I Fall to Pieces.
Right.
On
He's
Angel.
in this, and then he's on Firefly.
He's on fire. Isn't he one of the Hands of Blue?
No, I think he's just a random. I think he's in the very first episode. I'd have to check. Are you checking?
I am checking.
How did people do podcasts before we had computers?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
They didn't.
They
They were
researched.
called radio shows, and before we had the internet, we didn't have podcasts.
Yeah, he's the captain of one of the Alliance's ships. So in the pilot episode, so he is one of the hat tricks. So I think Joss is
One of
very
the, I mean,
fond.
now he has more than, and people did more than 3 things, but he was one of the original hat tricks. So
yeah.
him and Carlos Jacot, and the guy that plays the guy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Jonathan
Woodward.
Woodward.
So speaking of De Hoffren,
Mm.
does he have like a pied-a-terre on the mortal plane that he just hangs out in? Or does Anya still know how to get to mystical realms?
Well, we do see Anya help Giles summon Beljox's eye.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess. I mean, I obviously she has magic knowledge. So yeah, I guess maybe that's how it works. Okay.
And I wonder if, considering her dress, she wasn't doing some sort of ritual to summon him, because she's wearing a very dramatic robe.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
common in some religions.
Yeah, that was my note from the first scene. So yeah, a lot of the further magic hadn't come up yet. So that's probably why I have that note.
I mean, originally I thought, is Emma's acting off in this? But I think it's part of the developing Anya as a character.
Mhm.
In this, there are some points where they don't seem to be really sure what they want to do with her.
Mhm.
Where it's like
Mhm.
she's funnier in this one, definitely, than she was in The Wish. But she's still got very much that Wish attitude, and there's a little bit of disconnect for me. I mean, probably because I saw like 5 seasons of her, like...
Being, quintessential Anya. And I do wonder if they didn't continue with that personality because her, eventual relationship with Xander would be that sort of antagonistic attitude would be too reminiscent of Cordelia.
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, I think in many ways, first of all, I mean, in The Wish, she really doesn't have a character. She's there to be a demon.
She's a plot device.
She's a plot device. So here she has to actually have a character, and so this is the first time they've brought Anya in as a character. And let's face it, characters often need an episode or 2 at least to find their feet. Also, I think you're absolutely right. Not just because of the Cordelia thing, but for her to be with Xander for any length of time, she would have to soften to some extent. I mean, she never fully softens, obviously, but
Well, you have to make it a different relationship. You can't have it be exactly sort of like the Cordelia relationship.
Well, yeah.
There has
That's
to be a
part
different
of it,
dynamic.
yeah.
So I think she sort of is way more there by the prom episode.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because she has intentions towards
Mhm.
Xander. And I think they maybe realized that if they kept up that attitude, it would be too,
it would get boring.
I don't know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about it, because obviously not only is she softer, but we don't see her being as lost with popular culture or human culture, just in general, as she is, as she will be even in the prom. And I am headcanoning it as her being so angry in this episode is because she is so focused on getting back her power. And she's still mentally a demon. But by the prom, she's kind of given up on that, and she's trying to figure out who she is outside of that. And so she's a little more lost. She's still focusing, we'll talk about that more in the prom, but she's focusing on all of the stuff she did when she was a demon. And then when she comes back in season 4, then we get true Anya, while this is still leaning more towards Anyanka.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. Is that right here? She's still, I want to get back to where I was, and by the prime, and certainly by season 4, she's like, well, that's not happening. So I need to actually develop a life. I don't like this life, but I better figure out what's going on, or else I'm really screwed.
Right, and then from a inside perspective in the episodes, but I think from an outside perspective, they were like, "Oh my God, Emma's really funny. We need to give her something to, you know what I mean? Because she's really such a comedian. Like Emma Caulfield is really so adept at that off-kilter comedy that I think they. And sometimes when you meet a person, though they may not be exactly like their character, you see something in them that you want to develop, like offset or on breaks. Emma was super funny or did some, or the way she talked. So
one thing I love about this scene is how Anya goes, I'm failing math.
I do
because
love that.
as we know, one of her defining characteristics from here on is that she is obsessed with money and is really good with money. So it's like she's no good at math, but when it comes to money, all of a sudden her math skills bloom. I love it.
Okay. Well, I mean, isn't that like a trick they teach some people? It's like put a dollar sign in front of numbers and all of a sudden they make sense.
I have no idea because I was always good at math, so I never needed that. But yeah, I could see that.
There is a difference between high school, college-y math, algebra, geometry, trig, all that stuff, than there is it really being good at balancing a budget, being a good bookkeeper. Because I can write a budget and I can stay up, I do all that stuff, but I cannot do the simplest of algebra problems. So there's like a difference in trig and business bookkeeping.
Oh, come on. Quadratic equations are easy.
So... Anya declares that she's going to get her powers back no matter what, and we move on to the next scene, which is Willow and Buffy is working out, and Willow is just doing magic casually out in the open.
Yeah, really. I'm just like, what?
If there's any way to do it, I guess it'd be Sunnydale.
As a child of, and someone that worked in a flower shop for her entire youth, I have to say, hey!
I was going to ask about that.
Flower shops is not near.
Is that actually a thing?
I don't know, but my mom.
Because I just went,
hey,
I have never heard this. I've never heard this.
I think it's hilarious, and I want to send that clip to my mother and be like, see? See? That's why we're all crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard it in a couple of different times, and I've seen a lot of assassins, using being a florist as a cover, but...
It is on...
Is that maybe because
It is on a psychological test. Last time I got a neuropsych exam, one of the testing things they do with your whatever, a lot about plants, a lot about that. And I'm like, I can't remember which test it is. It's like one of the really famous ones that I can't bring up right. And I was like, should I pick flowers or should I not pick flowers? I'm going to pick not flowers because I didn't actually become a florist and wasn't all that interested. So,
Do you think maybe that's because, bakeries, it's a good way to, clean money? Because the stock itself is just sort of, overturning constantly.
Oh, you mean laundering money?
Yeah, I meant cleaning money as far as... laundering, cleaning, laundering.
Well, I thought we were doing that through an art gallery.
Yes,
we Joyce are. And Spike.
Yeah. Joyce and Spike are doing that.
Listeners, we still need that fanfic. Thank you.
I am a little... how do I put this? I'm not sure how I feel about Buffy's attitude in this opening scene.
It's a little weird.
Her wanting to beat Faith in these council tests, it seems... I find a little bit of a disconnect between that and the way Buffy was with Faith in the last episodes. I don't understand why she's being competitive with her. It's not a contest. They're trying to figure out if Faith is sane or not.
Yeah, no, I don't really get that. Also, the Watchers Council has a shrink? I bet he sucks.
Yes.
Bet he's not really busy.
Yeah. He should be, but he's not.
Buffy does say, she talks about all this competition, but at the end she does acknowledge that Faith has it rough. She says, Faith's had it rough, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, Sanity Fair. Great.
Sanity Fair is a great line.
Sanity Fair is a great line. And, oh, geez, the pencil. Oh, the pencil, Willow. Like, they were just setting up right from the beginning that you were going to go evil.
I mean, it's like this whole scene is basically how unself-aware Willow is. And actually, like, this whole episode will kind of continue that.
Yeah, I mean, at one point she is like, hey, this isn't, magic ain't nothing to fuck with, but... And who has emotional control at 17? My question is, why don't y'all use that with a larger, also sharp wooden thing and just slay vampires that way?
Very good point. Though Willow does slay vampires with a pencil in a
She does.
upcoming episode.
And they're setting that up right here, so that is a good payoff.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, here is the thing. Like, just saying, it's like, yes, teens don't have emotional control. But that was more than just not having emotional control. Like, not even talking about vampires, that could have killed anybody.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's like, leaving aside the emotional control, I mean, obviously, they're talking about Faith. Willow's going to get emotional. I mean, we know that, but we also know that Willow's so unself-aware and thinks that she's so calm that she might go, but you're not paying attention to your magic. You're having this conversation and not even looking at the pencil. And it's like, this is irresponsibility 101.
This being 17 101, which actually is kind of sets the stage for how powerful she is, just innately. She's not even practicing with intent at this point. She's completely distracted and talking to Buffy, and she's still, like, exhibiting scary, powerful pencil magic. So I hadn't even thought of that until what you just said, David.
Well, and I think that Dark Willow's storyline was supposed to come earlier than it did.
It was
and it was supposed to be Oz that died. But Seth left the show and they introduced Tara, so this was supposed to be earlier because I think they didn't know if UPN was picking them up yet when they finished.
Buffy was supposed to be 5 seasons long. It was supposed to be 5 seasons long. The Doc character was a replacement for Dark Willow. Because originally Glory was still going to get killed, and then Dark Willow was going to be the one to bleed Dawn.
Oh,
and then the show would have ended with Buffy dying and Willow coming back. So I don't know if they would have had like the yellow crayon speech going over Buffy's death, which would have actually been kind of amazing.
So they are peppering it in at this point.
They are peppering it in at this point. But this is one of the first times we've really seen Willow, like, doing magic, because...
And confidently doing magic.
Yeah, because we've seen, like, some, like, brief scenes of ritual, but this is, like, just flat-out magic. And in this episode, we see her do a spell. It wasn't a sexy spell. But...
Hey, I know, now that, like, Disney's buying everything, if Disney buys up the Buffy franchise, if they haven't, I don't know who owns Buffy at this point, but it's like
Warner Brothers.
Okay,
no,
so
I
yeah,
thought
okay,
it was Fox.
so great. So we combine this. So Buffy becomes part of the Marvel universe, and she's a mutant.
No, Buffy is the mutant because she's part of the Summers family.
Well, she's well, yes, which also means she has serious issues. but Willow could be a mutant. Willow is the Scarlet Witch.
Oh, you're right. It is Fox.
Oh, it's Fox?
Is Fox.
Oh, then Disney does own them now.
Oh.
Yeah, well.
I thought so. So, in the next scene, we get just a little brief appearance from our favorite Principal Snyder.
Yes.
I love this scene because I love Snyder showing disdain for a student who is not Buffy.
Yeah.
He hates him.
Yeah, he really does. Because, I mean, like, the thing is, he likes what Percy can do for the school, but he hates Percy. And you know
with
that's
good
because
reason.
People like Percy shoved him into lockers when he was a kid.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of characters that are just plot devices, that's Percy all over. Like, Percy here will be an asshole, and there will be a transformation by the end of the episode because that's what we need.
And then Percy again later exists to make Willow feel insignificant.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's
I have a soft spot in my heart for Percy.
Do you?
I do. Like, because he's just like one of these really, really random characters who isn't in a lot of episodes. But the few times we do see him, I like him. Like, there's just something about him. Like, okay, like, I know he makes Willow feel bad in season 4, but I think he low-key has a thing for her.
Yeah. I can see that.
Like, if it, like, especially when we see him in Graduation Day, if Willow hadn't been with Oz, he might have asked her out.
Oh, yeah.
He, like me, likes women who can
I
throw
was
him
just
around.
going to
I
say,
respect
yeah.
that.
It's like, oh, Willow can beat me up. I like that.
Beat him up while wearing leather.
Well, yeah.
Mistress of
And they're going to
Yeah.
mention it in the next scene. Willow's going to say something about Snyder's nostril work. And I do
Yes.
have to call out that Armin has the best
Yeah.
nostril work in the history of television. Because he does. He
Yes.
Like, I think they wrote that because Armin does
That's
so much
probably
cool
something
stuff
that
with his
Josh
face.
noticed.
Yeah. And so, like, I like
Yeah.
to, you know, it's in, the line isn't until the next scene, but if you watch this scene, you're like, yep, that's excellent nostril work there,
Yes.
Armin.
Yep.
So,
And we get a call back to the swim team.
Yes.
yes.
Rare callback.
And I had a friend whose job it was to make sure the athletes stayed at their GPA in college. So like it happens. So many of them got like so much extra tutoring. They literally would have a person standing over them to make sure they got their grades at the level they needed to be at, so they didn't flunk out. Like,
Yeah.
So my friend Brian, who was a grad student at the time, was like the humanities guy, and I was just like, where some of us needed help with stuff and didn't get free tutoring because we were in the acting profession and not the team, who sucked. Our team sucked anyway.
But you're not bitter.
Dude, I'm gonna throw in some defense here. Considering the time commitment most collegiate sports require, when the fuck would they ever have time to study and do homework? But your school didn't have like an on-site
We had
tutoring
some
for free,
tutoring,
like
but
in
it
a
wasn't
library?
like someone standing over you and basically practically writing your paper. And neither do theater majors. Theater majors have very little time, and our GPA requirement was a whole extra GPA point up. So they had to maintain a C average, and we had to maintain a B average to be able to stay on stage. Pissed me off. Okay, rant over.
Okay,
Do they
so
expect you to just be
Rant
smarter?
over.
before we started this episode, we were all talking about how much we loved this episode and how this is just a really fun episode to watch. I actually do have one complaint about this episode, and it's getting to the point where it's appropriate to bring up. The basic conceit of this episode, where it's Willow thinks she's boring, actually comes out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yes, because the problem is people are taking advantage of her and treating her like a doormat, but the whole boring thing actually does not kind of mesh with that. If Willow had been pissed off by people taking advantage of her, that I would have understood a little bit more, but then all of a sudden she's like, I'm gonna change my look or do whatever, and it's like, that's not what people were... That's not what the issue was.
See, I
Well, my argument against that would be, I think all this stuff with Faith and the things you see in the prior episodes, specifically Bad Girls, is kind of what's prompting this feeling of inadequacy and like boring and taken advantage of. And maybe she's just now realizing
and to
it.
be honest, I have to I admit it, for many it may be a subtle difference, but I don't think Willow thinks she's boring. I think Willow thinks she's predictable, which is not the same thing.
Well, the only problem with that is Willow said several times in this episode, "You think I'm boring." So that does seem to be like the whole thing. And then when she sees Vampire Willow, she realizes that it's good just being plain old Willow. So it's not a huge thing. It's not a deal breaker in terms of the episode, but it's our job to point out flaws, and like for me, I point out flaws in the writing, and so I just think that there was just a little tiny. I would have made a change.
I guess the way I'm interpreting it is they play up the boringness thing to emphasize at the end that being regular Willow is fine. But I think but that it's not just being regular Willow is fine. Being regular Willow is pretty fucking awesome.
Right, but I don't think she... And like the big character arc of Willow is that she doesn't actually believe that about herself, and I think that speaks a lot to her own self-image issues and things like that, because that's what drives her to get further and further into her addiction to magic.
You could be pretty awesome and still have self-esteem issues.
Oh, for sure, but she doesn't see that.
Well, I mean, I think she sees it more by the end of the episode because she sees how badly things could go, or by her lights at least.
I think Willow is projecting boring onto this predictable thing because of her weird "I'm so great, I'm so bad" thing. She has like real unstable self-esteem. It's just not bad self-esteem, because sometimes it's inflated self-esteem, which is fine. I do that too. So like the boring thing maybe is more her projection of how she sometimes sees herself. So I don't know.
I mean, I can say some from personal experiences. Like, I will often like think things about myself that are clearly not true, but are emphases of other things.
Well, all I'm saying is that what starts it off is that Snyder kind of bullies her into tutoring Percy, and then Percy kind of steamrollers her into saying that you're going to do my work for you. And just kind of all of that. And then we get, the scene of like her immediately doing what Giles says. So it was kind of building up to Willow being treated like a doormat. And that ends up being the bookend on it, where you have that vampire Willow actually does sort things out with Percy. So she's no longer being treated as a doormat, but that does not really mesh with the whole boring thing for me. It seemed like there was a scene missing for me.
Fair point.
This is essentially the Buffy version of that Star Trek episode where the one where Kirk gets split into two Kirks. Was it The Enemy Within?
I thought the Buffy version of that was
The Replacement.
The Replacement, yeah.
Well, The Replacement specifically references it, but I think thematically this works.
See, I actually went more with again the Mirror, because it.
Yeah, except in Mirror Mirror they don't interact.
Okay, fair enough.
We could break this down for an hour. It's but I think just thematically, that's the I think because the way I'm looking at it right now, and maybe if I thought about it further, it would be. But it's like, okay, you have the two quote unquote sides of Willow, and we learn that there has to be a middle ground, even though they don't actually merge at the end like Kirk does. Like, Willow, I think, certainly gains confidence from the knowledge of the existence of Vampire Willow.
And Willow's problem isn't that she's dependable, because dependable is not a bad thing. It's good to be dependable. No. It's that she doesn't know how to say no to people. So a lot of the things that are her complaints, and she's like, oh, I'm just dependable, is, did you record this? Did you, you can't say no to Snyder, so I get that. He's just going to bully you. But some of the other things, like Giles sort of runs over her, and she's willing to do that. It's Giles. There's a good reason. But some of the other stuff that, like Buffy and Xander and all that stuff, it's because she doesn't know how to say, Xander, record your own fucking show. Like, stop it. Like, I am not your keeper. I am not that for you. And that's a very Willow thing, that it's also very much a younger woman with a like kind of low and unstable self-esteem.
And also definitely something that makes a lot of sense given recent events.
And ironically, she later doesn't know how to listen when people say no to her.
Yeah. True. Very true.
So we do get Faith coming in with Wesley after having done her test. And oh my god, Wesley's so funny.
I love Wesley.
Oh god.
But I mean, this is kind of, again, back to like the previous episodes, how they kind of served as kind of just lead-ins to this. But the way Faith is being treated is also a little jarring, considering where we left things in the last episode. So,
nothing has changed.
Yeah, they really did not know how to make those two episodes kind of work with us. So, but that leads into a scene of the mayor and Faith together.
I love this
one
scene.
Of my favorites.
Yeah,
I love this scene, and I love how he doesn't overtly shut down. I mean, he does overtly shut down her trying to sexualize herself again.
Yeah.
But it's just one little line. He's like, no, we don't do that here. And moves on. And I think that's one of the anchors on why Faith ends up trusting him and working for him, is just that very subtle, I'm a family when we're not going to do that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Because I mean, like, as much as we love Giles, even Giles kind of gave in to the Faith sexualizing herself and, you know, making her seem sexually available to him. Like, I mean, like, not that I'm saying that Giles would take her up on it, but he was getting all like weird and blushy when she was like,
right. He didn't know how to deal with her doing it, so he didn't address it and say, Faith, no, that's not what's happening here. Don't do that.
Meanwhile, the mayor immediately becomes a father figure to her.
He does, and he shows her that her worth to him is not centered on what her worth to so many other people has been, which is her sexuality and the sexuality that's forced upon her, which is unique for her. I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of the Scoobs weren't like, hey, let's do the thing. But they took who she was at face value. And I'm not saying the mayor wanted her for anything other than the fact that she was, like, evil and superpowered. But I could argue that.
I mean, I think he originally was like, great, the Slayer's going to double agent for me. I'm going to use her because she's super. But I think he starts really caring about her and loving her.
Oh, absolutely.
God, yes.
So quickly.
Yeah, and Who Are You? The video is that he leaves her is sad and touching.
I know, it's weird, and it's a toxic relationship, but she doesn't know anything but toxic, so this is less toxic for her. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know that this relationship is so much toxic as simply evil.
Well, yes, it is evil.
No, but and I think there is a difference because they're coming together to do evil. But the relationship between the two of them is not actually bad or toxic or terrible. In fact, I mean, what I've been thinking ever since I watched this is, we know Faith is always, like, sexualized. She's a tough girl. And here, she's jumping on the bed. She is 7 years old in this scene. Except for that one bit where she comes on to the mayor. But other than that...
She's happy to have a video game system.
Yeah.
Yeah. She is actually a kid. And for the first time... I mean, we've always known that was behind the toughness and everything. But here we get to see it for the first time. Where she lets herself be that kid.
And he allows her to do it.
Exactly.
Not allowing, like, I'm allowing you, but
no.
Cool, you're excited about this. Don't jump on the bed, young lady. But I got you an Xbox or a PlayStation, and you know, and that is a beautiful apartment. I want that apartment. That apartment is so sweet.
Oh yeah, it's a nice apartment. And then, I mean, the thing is, he's probably the first person who has ever taken a parental role with her.
Definitely. This scene does have one of my favorite exchanges in this episode. And it's there are immoral liaisons going on there. And just like, yeah, plus all this all this.
That is a good one.
Which again is like a total kid response.
Yeah.
Even like, okay, maybe kids don't know about screwing, but it's like just that kind of almost innocent response to immoral things going on. It's just like, oh yeah, and the screwing.
And then we go back to Willow, and she sees Scott Evil, aka Oz,
in the iconic pink sweater.
I was going to actually bring that up. That Buffy, as much as I love this show, as a costumer, it does not have very many iconic outfits. Like, you have Spike has an iconic outfit. And you could say, like, the Prophecy Girl outfit. That's iconic. Maybe a couple of the costumes from Once More with Feeling.
Her red pants with when Angel bites her is really iconic.
But, like, for cosplay, it can be really, really hard to do Buffy the Vampire Slayer because they wear clothes.
Right.
And they wear very on-trend for the time clothes.
Yeah. But this outfit is so iconic. It's like if you see somebody wearing this, it's like they're Willow.
It
And I'm pretty sure you could get that sweater.
You
at
can't.
Forever
No,
21
you can
now,
get it
so.
at
Hot Topic.
Hot Topic. Yeah, there was a hot.
Oh, I meant just as a general.
Oh,
fashion
yeah. Oh,
trend
for
thing
sure,
Coming
yeah.
back around,
Mhm.
not the actual
You can
replication.
get a replication. They were sold out when I went to look for it, and then I realized, you know what? It's an iconic outfit, but it's actually kind of an ugly outfit.
It's
It's hideous, and I think
It's-
that's on purpose. But I was like, when are you going to wear a pink fuzzy sweater? That would look terrible on you, Andy.
I'm going to wear
But it works for
as
Willow.
a cosplay costume because I would like to
Oh,
dress
yeah.
as Willow. I would dress as regular Willow during the day and then Vamp Willow at night.
The
Okay.
Vamp Willow costume is iconic too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And you know what? So is Dark Willow's outfit as well, in my opinion, with the black jacket and the dark jeans and the dark hair. Why are with so many of the iconic outfits from this series?
Because
I
Willow
think
has that odd dress sense, you know what I mean? That sort of elevated little girl
dark
kind of
dress
thing.
sense?
I don't know.
Well, I think
She-
it's because the outfits that we mentioned, they're extra characters of Willow. And I mean, even like this outfit, this is like it's like, what's the most stereotypical Willow thing?
And I think the costumers were
True.
like, let's make this extra willowy. I do love in this scene, there's something about you that's causing me to hug you. I love that line.
Yes.
And then the radical interpretation of the text.
Yeah, because Oz is just like, does not understand. It's like, you think I'm boring. It's like, where the heck did that come from?
Yeah.
And they're very Jossy lines too,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
Seth always delivers really well.
And of course, the other thing about the sweater is it gives us the wonderful line, "I'm all fuzzy."
Yes, that's
Yes.
true.
And the scene moves on to Willow and Percy's a complete jackass to her.
Oh
But-
yeah.
That's his
That's
point.
his point. That's who.
Yeah.
is
Yes.
plot
And he'll
guy.
become better. Willow ends up meeting with Anya for the first time, and this really establishes the Willow and Anya relationship. Because I mean, you think about it, they don't get along for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode really
Right.
explains that. Like, I mean, I think certainly part of it is Willow's territorialness with Xander. Because even when she's gay, she's still very territorial over Xander.
Mm-hmm.
But even more than that, this episode, I think I wouldn't be too keen to hang out with Anya if Anya did to me what she does to Willow.
That makes sense.
No.
Yeah. But then
No.
Willow starts talking about, the black arts, dark mojo. And I'm
Oh,
like, you
God.
really have no
Yeah.
idea.
I think she's just trying to be like I'm a badass. I'm asserting myself.
Well, no. She's like, well, the thing is, she's like, I'm boring, I'm dependable, blah. No one really wants me for anything real. And then, like, someone comes to her and says, hey, let's do black arts. And she's like, oh, that's something I can do. Cool.
The
blackest
arts.
arts. I can do the blackest arts. So it's part of it is there are other things going on, but part of it is a reaction to how she's feeling in that moment.
No, I'm calling it out. She's doing it because she's Willow, and Willow never needs an
Yup.
excuse to do the black
Oh,
arts.
that too.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when things go horribly wrong, I actually wrote down the quote, magic is dangerous, Anya. It's not to be toyed with. I'm like, who
Really?
the fuck are you, Willow? I'm like,
I don't think Dark Willow toys with magic. I think she wields it very skillfully. All of that skin.
Oh yeah.
but that's the thing. It's like, but throughout, like, as I said before, it's like this episode, amongst other things, is all about Willow's complete lack of responsibility and unawareness about it.
I also think that along with our Giles gets knocked out counter and our unfortunate sexual assault counter, I think this is the first entry in our count of Willow's magic fucks up and causes the main problem of the episode.
Mm.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
Anya has something to do with it too. Like,
No, actually, because if you're looking at it, Willow gets scared, Willow's hand starts to shake, and Willow shakes the sand onto her rather than the...
Mhm.
I mean, Anya did start it, but Willow is the one who actually fucked up.
Mhm.
well, I mean, she makes a bobble with her hand because she's nervous. So I'm not like, yes, Willow's magic does fuck things up, but she didn't
Well-
know the sand through the hand. And
Yeah, I mean, and also she has just gotten blasted with the entire knowledge of the Wish universe.
And she's been lied to about what spell they're
Right.
casting.
Like there's a lot going on there.
But here's why you don't do a spell without actually knowing, like, the full,
Well, yeah.
like,
Oh,
extent
for
of
sure.
what it'll do.
Mhm.
Or you don't
You
do
mean, like, a
don't do
responsible
magic with strangers.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Was that did somebody come to your school to teach you about that?
Yeah. And I have to say, I am often down on the way the magic works in the Buffy universe because it makes no goddamn sense. This actually makes sense. Because the fact of the matter is, Anya is trying to get her amulet back.
Mm-hmm.
And the amulet was destroyed in the Wish universe.
Exactly, yeah.
So they are literally trying to pull something from that universe, but they get Willow instead of the amulet. And they get Willow before she dies.
Anya says it'll pull it from the time and place where it was taken, and Vampire Willow was killed very close to the time that the
Giles
amulet was
destroys,
actually
yeah.
destroyed. So it was very,
Yeah, yeah.
similar. And, the sand passes through Willow's hands, so it pulls up Vampire Willow. No, I mean, the
Right.
magic is sound, but all
Yep.
I'm saying is that don't do a spell you don't know
Oh, yeah.
how to do it. Don't do magic with people that you don't really know. And again, emotional control, because she gets freaked out, her hand shakes,
Yep.
and she messes up the spell. So yeah,
Mhm.
I am putting it on Willow just because also I want to start this counter because it's going to rack up the points over the
All right, you keep a
years.
document going of
But yes, we get Vampire Willow turning up in the warehouse, which I think they made a mistake in that because it was a factory, right? The factory should have looked a little different than the one from.
Yeah.
It should have been like producing teddy bears or something.
Well, I kind of assumed that the factory has been abandoned since
I did too.
like the beginning of season 2.
But I like the teddy bear idea.
Well, I
'cause
mean,
it's like,
is it? I mean, they never say that it's Spike and Drew's factory.
it's just a factory.
It is just a factory in Sunnydale.
Well, there is a cage there.
For the teddy bears.
Oh, right.
so they
Yeah.
don't run away. And
But I mean, here's the thing: there was a cage in the Wishverse because they needed to hold people in it. So I'm saying that the factory should have looked completely different from the Wishverse factory because not the mayor, the master had not been in there making it into a factory to farm humans.
Right, well, there's no factory machinery. It's just the outline of a factory. And when seeing the cage basically brought me back to the death of the annoying one. So I was thinking that's where that is in the regular Buffy universe.
But also that factory is burnt out because Giles set it on fire.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yep, they screwed up.
Um,
I'm trying to give them credit, but no, they won't let me.
And we
Can't
see
find it.
Vampire Willow walking the streets of Sunnydale, and it's completely different from the Wishverse. And this is exactly done from the Wish when we see Cordelia walking the streets,
Yeah.
seeing how different Sunnydale is there. Very nice little bookends.
I love the Sunnydale street set. I just have to shout
It's
that
a
out.
great set.
It's a great set.
Mhm.
I want to live in a town that looks like that, but does not have vampires and shit in it. It's great with the movie. I just love that set.
I do.
Yeah, the marquee of the movie theater.
Sorry, you can't have that without the vampires. It's
No,
just not
I
allowed.
do live in a town that looks like that. Well, I mean, it's not in Southern California, but that's kind of what my hometown looks like.
It also
And are you
is
saying you
vaguely-
don't have vampires?
I didn't say that.
It's also vaguely reminiscent of the Back to the Future street, you know?
Yeah, well,
There's
it's,
a kind of a
Yes.
reference point, and so I just think the set design for it is really neat.
well, it's very much small town. Everything's located on one strip.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what the town is.
Except for the university, which is enormous, and,
And
somewhere
a beach
else.
and an airport, and, everything they need.
Yeah. One of these days, someone has to try and make a map of Sunnydale using all the information we've been given and see if it's even possible.
There might be one out there. I'll have to.
It probably
I'll have to
exists.
look
I wouldn't be surprised if it's been done.
Map of Sunnydale, California. Just type it into Google, you'll find it.
Yeah.
I'll link
Yeah.
to one of them.
Yeah.
And it
And
looks
I-
like people have made something fairly consistent.
And so I also might as well do it here. I want to give kudos to Allie, because the playing of regular Willow and Vampire Willow, like, two characters could not be more different while being the same person. And I think she does. I think she just does a great job of differentiating the two characters. I mean, she just plays two entirely different roles, essentially.
And I think it helps that this is kind of comedy, because I in The Wish, I did say something about, like, I'm not feeling Allie's acting all the time in this one. There was a stiltedness, and I think she was able to play something different, and they are completely different characters. They do both. I noticed this in this episode. Their little girl voices, because sometimes Willow gets that little girl voice and sometimes she doesn't.
Oh God, yeah.
They play it up so much in this episode. So even though they're totally different characters, they have a sort of vocal thing going on, and they both use that little girl voice to their advantage in many places. I think for Vampire Willow, it's sort of this put on, and for Willow, she does it for different reasons. And so I thought that was really interesting.
It's still a put on, though.
Yeah, it's a put on. It's a total put on for both of them for various reasons. I also think they made adjustments to the costume.
I would also like to shout out just Joss and for that, because The Wish was not directed or written by Joss. It was Marty and David Greenwald. And I think that Joss doing this episode helped out with Vamp Willow.
And direction.
Yes.
More solid direction.
Both of them, both writing and direction. I think that it made them both very distinct characters. And so many people think about The Wish in terms of Vamp Willow, but actually most of the things people associate with Vamp Willow actually come from this episode.
Yeah, and it's just Allie's physical acting is, and of course her posture change could be helped by a little corset, but she just, the way she carries herself is so particular, and I know she had such a good run on Himyum, but I just wish she had a more flourishing career so we could get a more fleshed out idea of her range and kind of.
And I think they did. I think they did modify the costume in a good way. Like the waist is a lot more nipped in, and the top is a little. So I'm sorry, I'm pointing at my boobs right now,
listeners.
And he's just making boob mess gestures. It's
you know what I mean. Like there's a subtle. I mean, it's the same costume, but they've made some like good changes to make it a better fit. That's what I noticed.
Well, I mean, I think they would have had to. Yeah. I mean, because as much as, you know, we think of Vamp Willow in The Wish, she's not the main character.
No, she's just
in that.
There.
Whereas here, she is in this episode a lot in that costume, both as Vampire Willow and not Vampire Willow. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Allie was like, you know, if you want to make this episode, you're going to have to make that costume more comfortable.
One question I do have when Vampire Willow gets jumped, what was the mayor doing in the Wishverse?
Don't know. Maybe he wasn't there in the Wishverse. Maybe he was chased out by the mayor in the Wishverse.
By the master?
Yeah. The master.
Oh. Anyways, I just thought that would, you know, listeners, fanfic opportunity, write about what the mayor was doing in the Wishverse, because I think it could have been either really good for him or really bad. Vamp Willow goes to the bronze and beats the crap out of Percy, which is
yay!
Funny. And meets up with Xander, and I actually kind of like Xander in this episode.
I have no issue with Xander, except for the whole thing with "Did you record my thing?" I don't have any issues with Xander. He's okay,
and I mean, like, that's not even a huge thing, because I mean, like, Buffy was asking too.
Yeah. But Buffy does basically tell Xander to shut up, which is like, you have been listening to our podcast. Good.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, when he thinks, you know, quote unquote, Willow is making a move on him, he immediately, like, shuts it down. Where it's like, what are you doing?
It's like, we've talked about this.
Yeah. Hands in new places.
But my favorite part of this, though, is when she realizes that he's not a vampire, and she just goes, "You're alive." And she says it like it's the worst insult possible.
For sure.
It's like, that is just a wonderful line reading.
And I love that it's following her saying, Xander, you're alive, because she had just seen
Yeah,
him
no,
dying
exactly.
in Whispers,
You're alive.
And then she's
No,
like, you're alive.
You're alive. Oh.
And shout out to one of my very favorite 90s bands, K's Choice. I was obsessed with K's Choice. I
Yes.
still have that album on CD. That's one of the most recognizable bands that you get on Buffy, besides like Amy Mann, I think. So I'm a huge fan of K's Choice.
And it's a really good performance. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe they actually performed that.
Maybe.
I think they performed Virgin State of Mind actually there. Or at least they recorded a live version for the show, because that's not the album version.
That isn't the album version, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I love K's Choice. I'm actually planning on, after recording this, like doing some reading, and I think I'm gonna throw some K's Choice on, because I have that CD. It is. I have to find a CD player. That's the problem. I don't have a CD player, but I do love K's Choice. So yay! Shout out to them.
And then the gang thinks Willow is dead and has been turned into a vampire, and just the scene of them mourning
is
We do get the little tiny scene, which I love, when Willow used her very innocent persona, and the whole "Who do you work for? Who do you work for?" scene, which I think is right before the gang in the library.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I love that scene. Just, it's very short.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun, and that Vampire Willow is just like, the breaking of the fingers is just like, wow. Anyway, so yes, the library.
But the gang thinks Willow is dead, and then real Willow comes in. And Xander shaking the cross to see if it works is the funniest thing that has ever been done with a cross, except for Fred using it as metal detector.
And I love the way this scene plays, because in actuality, if this was a serious episode, they would be a lot more trauma. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fine balance, because you can't have them go into this super depressive state and wailing and weeping, which is probably what they would really be doing. Right. But it's a nice, Joss does a really nice job with the tone, where they're upset and they have a more shocked reaction. And then she comes in because finding out Willow is dead would be a much bigger thing, but they have to balance that with the comedy.
And I think it still works on sort of a reality level, because yes, they'd be sad and mourning, but I think at this point they'd just be in shock.
Yeah.
So that they are just sitting there numb works perfectly, and I think would work even if it was a more serious episode.
Well, and it just tonally, it really works, and I applaud Joss.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
Tone.
and Giles' line tempers it even further.
Much better than he
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
And Willow's acknowledgement of all of the people who die in Sunnydale, where she's like, who died? Oh no, who died?
And I love how Giles just, like, they finish hugging her, and she's like, okay, guys. And Giles just goes in and, like, grabs her, and it's really...
Yeah.
You know, Willow at that time period be like, oh, I got a hug from Giles.
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, like,
her face.
Thinking of...
God, Allie's face right
She
then.
was so horrified.
As Giles is incredible.
But, you know, and the great thing about, I mean, and I think this is true of the series overall with Giles, is that we know Giles has a heart as big as All Outdoors, but he's still a watcher. He's still English.
Yeah,
so he's
British
not
as
going to
hell.
express that. And the show is really good about not letting him do that kind of expression until it's the exact right time.
Mm-hmm.
They limit it. Yeah, and I think that works incredibly well for his character just throughout the series.
So then we go back to the Bronze with Anya, and I believe this is the first mention of the Bronze serving alcohol.
I think it is.
And also, I like the bartender.
Yep.
I do.
Yeah. And Oz and Angel interacting. This scene and a couple others make me really wish that they had developed an actual friendship between Oz and Angel, because I like them together.
Yeah, they're really good here.
And Angel's character in this episode is so much more palatable. And I think it's because they're working towards him getting his own show. You see more of Angel, the series, Angel characterization than you would. Because you're looking for Buffy, when am I not, or whatever he says.
I counted up how many chords I could play on the ukulele. Because he's like, some bands know a whole 7 chords. I'm like, how many chords do I know? And I came up with a good 18 or 19. So,
Yay.
Sometimes ukulele chords are way easier.
And
but,
I love Devin's response though. It's like
fruity jazz
oh
bands.
no, that's fruity jazz stuff. It's like
Okay, I low-key love Devin.
I low-key love
always
Devin,
have.
too. Me too.
And there's a deleted
Yes!
scene here, a deleted
Oh my
bit,
god,
right?
and I'm really
That's
sorry they
a really
did
good
not
Devin
include
bit.
it. The deleted bit is that Devin asks Angel, hey man, how would you like to be our roadie? And Angel says, less than you'd think.
Less than you'd think.
Which is really why they cut it, because it's like, why are you cutting Angel being funny?
Could ease us
I
into
can
it.
only assume it was for time reasons, but it was a mistake.
I know.
And let's shout out Seth Green's beautiful
Oh.
face acting, because when he sees Vamp Willow, just his expression is just so horrified. He's not allowed to like process the whole, oh my god, Willow's been killed. He just plays it on his face, and it's, get Buffy. So good.
It reminds me of, and honestly, I'm so bad at the timeline, we can cut this. I just need it for edification. When, and I can't even remember the episode, but there's a spell or something, and Willow's, I think,
It's
been
choices.
taken,
It's
and I
like
think
3
Wesley,
episodes from now.
Right, it reminds me of his immediate, like, okay, I'm going to solve
By
this
destroying
problem
the spell.
quickly.
I love
Yeah.
that scene. That's
Yeah, oh yes.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And in this scene, we get introduction to a minor character, but one who actually plays a lot, like a big role in things, and that is Sandy, the random chick at the Bronze that Willow bites and presumably turns, because Sandy is, and they've admitted that yes, that they are the same character. She's the vampire that Riley hires to suck his blood.
Same actress?
Interesting.
Same actress, same character.
Oh my god. Oh wow, I never
That's
realized that. Crazy.
Interesting. Because they don't show her
They don't
turning.
They don't show her being turned, but it is the same actress, and she is in the credits of those episodes as Sandy as well.
Interesting.
Never knew that.
Which begs a sort of technical question. How quickly can vampires drain someone? Because that was like 2
Well,
seconds.
you've also got to think Harmony in Graduation Day. She was very quickly bitten, but we didn't see her being changed over, so we don't know how much blood needs to be taken. I mean, I assume the heart needs to stop. Maybe one of the vampire guys like decided to like turn. Maybe it wasn't Vampire Willow who turned Sandy.
Yeah,
Maybe it
I was
was one
thinking
of the
that.
henchmen while the whole stuff at the library was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically
down with that.
one of those guys going, well, she's kind of cute. I could use a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
But yeah, probably.
that is not unexpected for this show in its horribleness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a level of horrible we should be used to by now, unfortunately.
And Willow finds out about Vamp Willow from the others and is the mistress of pain every night.
Boom! 1,000 fanfics right there.
Oh yeah,
I wrote about half of them. I like Angel's whole bit with Willow, like the Willow's dead, hi Willow. Super funny,
Oh, dude,
but
such
I
good
am.
timing.
It is so funny. David Boreanaz has great timing, but I'm calling you out. Why is Angel out of breath?
Because,
They literally address the breathing thing, like, in this episode. But she says, I guess vampires don't have to breathe. No reason why he should be out of breath, but maybe that clears up the whether or not they can question we've been batting around for, 50 some odd episodes.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is they can, and sometimes they're stupid enough to do so when they really shouldn't.
right, I mean, they have to have some control over that breath because they smoke cigarettes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, I mean, we've
Sure.
addressed it before, but I'm calling it out just because he's very obviously pouting, and that's a fucking choice.
hmm maybe in this case it's a panic reaction.
I think it's just inconsistency.
Yeah.
It's really inconsistency. There's no question about that. But in universe, maybe because Willow turning into a vampire is pretty... That's a big deal.
Yeah. But we separate Willow from the group because she's going to get the tranquilizer gun, and Vamp Willow comes to see her, and I have to call them out. I'm not call them out, shout them out for the really nice visual work to get the two Willows in the same scene.
It's nicely done.
They did it. They did the composite very well, because it's not like they're just like looking at each other from two sides of the room so that they could easily stitch together. They're standing like very close to each other.
Well, at some point, one of them standing directly behind the other. I mean, it's really well done.
And it begs the question why they put so much effort into it. But the later scene in a later episode where the mayor's head gets cleaved into.
That was a previous episode, but yeah.
Previous episode, that was the last episode. I know what time it is, okay? I know what day it is. I don't. But it looked so wonky because he's so frozen for so long, because it's however they had to do. I'm like, why would y'all? That was a pivotal thing. It was just as pivotal as this. Why spend so much time on this if you're not going to do it consistently throughout the series?
I mean, I think it's done really well for 1999. You look at it now, and there's a few little focus issues.
The lighting's a little odd,
but for 1999, it's really, really, really good.
No, it looks quite good.
It looks really good. It actually holds up pretty well.
Yeah, but Willow tranks Vamp Willow, and then the gang comes back and they lock her in the cage and everything, and we get a very iconic line. And I think I'm kind of gay.
We think you're kind of bi, Willow, but hey.
Yeah. So, by the way, should we be keeping a count of how many times people fire a trank gun and actually hit their target?
It becomes a lot less after Oz leaves the show.
Yeah, I guess
we're already
so,
starting to
but...
wind down on
So I
it.
guess drugs work on vampires?
Well, we
I guess.
already knew that. Well, I mean, I guess we already know, but in the future we will know. Because... Never mind. I'm thinking about Orpheus.
Okay. Yes.
But
back to I think I might be gay.
I think you're kind of bi.
So
Me
is
too.
this? Well, yeah, but at this point, do we think they had decided that this is the way they were going?
No, they knew that. Joss knew that either Willow or Xander was going to end up being gay, and he was peppering in hints as to one or the other.
Both of them.
But
he prepped in hints for both of them.
At this point, he was pretty sure that he was going to do the whole Dark Willow storyline with Oz, and it was not until next season that he realized he couldn't do that because Seth Green had way better things to do with his time.
Arguably.
Yeah, he has been in some pretty shit movies, but he probably got paid a lot better.
Well, yeah.
He did, and he had his own production things he wanted to do too.
Mm-hmm.
Because Robot Chicken, well, I think
It hadn't
starts
started
after Buffy.
yet, yeah.
But
Angel's comment about how...
Oh, yes.
It actually... I mean, granted, that does, like, answer a lot of things about Willow. That
Just remember, a vampire's personality has nothing to do with who that person once was. Well, actually...
Oh my god, Angel will actually Buffy.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about angels.
I
does.
was going to say, that was like, so you're a psychotic rapist, Angel.
Right, and I think, you know what, maybe we'll get into this another episode, but that thing is inconsistent too. Because you have the whole, he's not Angel right now, but Spike obviously takes pieces of the personality he had. He tries to submerge them by being a badass, but they're there. You know what I mean? There's...
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, one thing I don't think we've explicitly pointed this out is that, this is my thing about life in general. It's like, people say, why did someone do this? That doesn't make sense to me. It's like, well, it's a question of what your priorities are. And I think that the Buffy production team will almost always prioritize a joke over continuity.
Yes, that is very true.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening here.
And
is that this will be inconsistent, but we got a good joke here.
Or
So
a
we
plot
did it.
thread we need to get to.
Oh, right,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, vampire. I mean, I like that little. It is pointed out, and
Mm-hmm.
Angel well actually is Buffy, and then but he shuts him up. Like we're not going to talk about this right now.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to freak Willow out. But
Yeah.
it does kind of speak to who Willow is and the duality
Yeah.
of her. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and the show's telling us that. It's like you think it's not, but
Well, that's what this episode is all about.
Yeah.
If you look at it, everything everything except for the skanky thing, Willow actually like goes through on. She's evil and she's gay.
Mm-hmm.
Though I do have to say this, I mean, I know I already made a joke about her being bi, but the whole scene with Willow and Vamp Willow reminds me a lot of the first mirror episode of Deep Space Nine, when Kira, as the Intendant, was hitting on her other universe self, and how Nana Visitor ended up being like super pissed off when they revisited the mirror universe and they just had her be a flat out lesbian, and she's like, no, I wasn't like playing evil gay, I was playing I'm so full of myself I want to fuck myself.
It reminds me of this any of y'all ever watched Agents of Cracked back in Cracked's
No.
internet heydays? There's a scene based on an article that Daniel O'Brien wrote about what to do if you are ever faced with your own clone. And you've got two options, and it's fuck or fight.
always.
I can totally
Always
see
fun.
Dan O'Brien writing that article.
Oh, it's so he did, and the way he plays it in the show itself is because like Prime Universe O'Brien starts to square up, and Clone O'Brien shakes his head and starts loosening his tie. Which is
I'm not good at fighting, so
delightful.
I'm going to go straight to fuck.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Also, I'm super cute.
Yeah.
Aw.
And of course, like, you cannot have like an evil twin episode and not have Willow dress up as evil Willow at some point.
No, of course.
They're gonna have to switch clothes, and
I know they played it for humor, but I do wish they had played it, because the most like iconic way of doing this, in my opinion, is Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange, as Hermione Granger as Bellatrix
Yes.
Lestrange.
Mm.
Helena Bonham Carter, Helena Bonham Carter is freaking amazing anyway. But like, yeah, the way,
yeah, that was a really good performance. Of course, with that, I think what they did is Emma Watson actually played the role so that Helena Bonham Carter could watch what Emma did, so that she could imitate Emma. And in this, Allie has to imitate
someone playing
herself.
themselves.
Yeah.
yes, that is true.
But gosh, look at those. It's just, and I love
Yeah.
the outfit is so iconic, but she does manage to act differently in it.
She
Yes.
does, yeah.
Yes.
And the little girl
Again.
voice is in full effect here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The little,
Again, just a wonderful, wonderful performance by Allie in differentiating the character. In fact, my only real problem is that they don't, and this is, I think, more the way it's written than performance, they don't have real Willow even attempt to act like evil Willow.
Oh no.
I mean,
Exactly.
she's not so stupid that she doesn't know, she wouldn't know how to, try to come off as evil Willow, and they really make her seem oblivious to this. And I wish and of course, it's all done for humor, and I think that, and it's wonderful humor. I kind of wish they found a little more of a balance there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to love the tiny wave she gives to Oz because it's fucking
Yeah.
adorable, but also it's
Yes.
like, Willow, you are the dumbest person in the world. Like,
Yeah.
how is nobody going to see that?
Yeah.
But literally
and I
everybody
do
else
love
in the
Seth's
Barnes
face
is.
when he's kind of realizing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
It mirrors that, like, not being able to process, and you know what I mean? Like, so he's got some things going on in his mind about how he can help with this, but like the face acting on Seth is great.
Seth
Oh,
is
yeah.
a fantastic actor, and
He really is.
we go back to the library and we get Cordelia
In a cocktail dress.
She's fucking
Oh,
gorgeous.
God.
She looks so incredible.
And you know she's
Where-
wearing that cocktail dress because she thinks Wesley's going to be there.
Well, I mean, that's as soon as
Yes.
she comes
Yes.
in, she's like, Wesley? That's the only reason why
Mhm.
she's there. And I do want to know why Wesley is at the school. Like, he's just randomly walking the halls. And I'm like, nobody else from the Scoobs are there. And he is not affiliated with the school at all. He just happens to be walking the halls. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I know.
Skeezing on high school girls. That's what it's doing.
A cute story during this, when Vamp Willow finally gets out and Wesley defends Cordelia from Vamp Willow. Allie apparently was already in love with Alexis, even though they weren't dating at the time. But that scene when he's like, pulling out the cross and like making the funny noises, Allie kept corpsing because she thought what he was doing was so funny. And
What Alexis does is so funny. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was so funny, and she was just so into him. She just like could not keep in character.
That's adorable.
So adorable.
Okay, just listeners, go look up Alexis and Allie and their families' Halloween costumes. They're not as good as Neil Patrick Harris, but they're pretty great.
Mhm.
They do like family costumes, and like it's so cute. Go look it up. They're so cute.
Speaking of Halloween costumes, apparently Allie liked the Vamp Willow makeup so much that for Halloween that year, she had the makeup designers do her up as Vamp Willow for
Nice.
a costume party.
Cool.
Must be nice to have your own like special
I
effects.
know,
team
right?
at
Right.
Your background.
Hey, I know a lot of drag queens, and I'm like, make me look nice today. So there you go.
I actually got
Yeah.
super jealous when watching the solo press tour because Amelia Clark had like really blonde hair, and she'd done that like for herself. It wasn't for Game of Thrones, but she got the Game of Thrones like hair designers to dye it for her to keep her roots like out, and I'm like, fuck, I hate you.
Lucky.
I have to do mine myself.
For sure.
At this point, when we get that they know who Willow actually is, the episode starts to just kind of become like random fightiness. I mean, it's good random fightiness.
It is
but
good
it's
right
like,
fightiness.
yeah. I do like Devin trying to climb up the same way Angel went out. It was just like this nice little bit of business. But even back when I first watched this, I wasn't too sure about the whole Buffy doesn't kill Vampire Willow and they send her back to the other universe. Because, I mean...
just because it's not your universe doesn't mean
Yeah,
not human beings
and
being
it's
murdered.
like the
Come on.
audience knows that Vampire Willow is
Yeah.
going to be killed in like 2 seconds. They don't.
My question is, when it comes to it's the Orbit
Yes.
Vessel, yeah? Is that rare?
No, they were selling it as paperweights.
Okay, Willow can ensoul vampires. She is capable of doing it.
I
not?
remember that question coming up all of the time back in the mailing list posting board days where people were like, why doesn't Willow just get a bunch of Orbitheslas and ensoul every vampire they come past? And I think the answer is reasons.
Well, okay, I will toss out a possible piece of headcanon. Willow's recovering from a concussion when she reinsouls Angel. Maybe she is not, and she seems taken over by mystical forces.
I was just going to say that.
Maybe in a not mentally aberrant state, she is not capable of ensouling
We'll
vampires
call you
that
out
easily.
on that because she reinsouls him in Orpheus, and she specifically said
That's much later.
She specifically said it was the first spell I ever learned. I'm not going to forget it.
But my point is, why not throughout the series? Like, you have so many issues with Spike, y'all won't kill him, he can't bite people. Why don't you just
That
give
is
him this,
that
man?
is a really
Just-
good question, and I actually just came up with a headcanon for it. That
Okay.
was like 2 or 3 owners of the magic shop ago, because the magic shop owner got killed
Mhm.
in that episode. Perhaps he had the only like source of orbs of Thessala. Maybe they've become a lot
Perhaps.
rarer. Like maybe he like ordered like all of the orbs of Thessala that were
He cornered the market.
He cornered
Except
the
for
on
the one
Orbs
that
of
Giles
Thessala.
had.
Yeah, Giles just happened to randomly have one, so I think
Yeah.
maybe they're a lot rarer to get now.
If we're going to ignore an Orpheus at this point, and maybe because she's not as powerful, we could argue that the mystical forces that take over Willow are like the powers that be, or in Emcee's argument, Jasmine.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I totally, like, when I did my fanfic series, I totally pulled the let's reinstall a vampire thing, because Yeah.
Do it. It's
And
a
also,
power,
I
but-
think later on in the comics, I believe Drusilla gets her soul back. She gets re-ensouled. It might be differently.
Really?
Might be done
so.
differently, but I think she was re-ensouled. But then they had to take her soul away because, she was even worse off with her soul.
right,
Because she
because
was
of guilt.
tortured to
Like,
begin
come
with.
on.
I do love the scene in in the library where Cordy is sat down and you can tell the way they cut back to it. Like, know that Cordy's been talking for like 20 minutes. She's gotten herself a drink and then she's like sitting there.
Yeah.
And,
So Cordy gets to work out her issues about the whole Xander Willow thing. Which I think is great. It's just like, I'm going to process this now because you're in a cage.
Honestly, it's like I don't encourage the imprisonment of people, but I do think Cordelia was entitled.
I do too, and she's just so funny. And then Wesley's screaming like a scream queen. When
Yes.
That's
amazing.
great. And I can see
And
why Allie was
I
just
can't
so
even scream.
enamored. Because I'm really enamored of Alexis Stanislav myself.
Oh, yeah.
I think he is so funny and so cool and so attractive.
Apparently he's taken, though.
Oh, he is taken. I mean, I can't find him attractive.
Yeah.
Logan's taken, and I still find her attractive. You know?
Well, yeah, that's true. So my question, though, is, I know by the time Wesley starts protecting Cordelia, Vamp Willow immediately becomes kind of bored and is like, fuck this, I'm gonna go have some fun. This is getting dull. But she does not react at all to that cross. She doesn't flinch.
Because she's Jewish?
I was gonna just say, oi, have you got the wrong vampire?
But I think later someone does bring a cross to her and she does react. I could be remembering this wrong, but I think there is a point where she does, and in this case she just like nothing.
Rule of funny, I think, in this case.
Probably rule of funny. And also, I really wish the thing about her being Jewish was canonically relevant. Because, I've brought this up before, but in the Marvel graphic novel Greenberg the Vampire, this is a huge plot point. And I remember that, and it's just a great idea.
I think that might get
Real.
into too much religious symbolism for Joss. I think the only reason why he used the cross is because it's so iconically a vampire thing. But he don't like no religion.
But he does, they do let Willow be Jewish.
They do, but they don't. They let her
Unless
be-
Nazis are involved, because then she just ignores people talking about Nazis all the time, and we know this is one of my pet peeves. But anyway, so inconsistent, rule of funny, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so we get the scene of Vampire Willow being sent home, and I have a problem with it because they don't know what's going to happen to Vampire Willow. Certainly we do. We find out that 2 seconds later she gets dusted and is dusted saying the F word, which was super funny. But I super judge the Scoobs for allowing that. I get it to a certain extent from Willow's point of view, but I would think that Buffy would be like, no, that's a vampire.
Be like, Willow, leave the room now. I'm going to slay. Or have Angel do it because he's not he's upset about Willow, but he's not. Buffy trying to kill someone that looks like Willow might be really traumatic for her. So get Giles to do it, get Angel to do it, and just make Willow and Buffy leave
Faith to do it, fuck.
I was going to bring up Giles because we know, a couple seasons from now, Giles is going to, straight up murder a dude. Because he shares a body with
the greater
Glory.
good.
So I can't...
Well, a lot of shit's going to go down between now and then.
Fair enough. But...
So maybe. But I certainly could see Angel doing it.
Yeah.
Because if anyone literally understands that the person you are as a vampire isn't you.
I don't know how I feel about Xander geeking out about being a badass vampire.
It doesn't bother me because it doesn't go on for too long.
True.
It just seems like such a weird... I guess it's because it's an alternate universe, and Xander being a comic book fan is there's an alternate universe in which I'm a badass vampire. That's awesome.
Or I think, frankly, it's just there's an alternate universe where I'm a badass.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's if I have to put up with being a vampire to be a badass, oh well.
And I would argue that, you know what? Xander is kind of a badass in this episode. He throws a vamp.
Yeah.
Like, he's really developed,
Yeah.
you know, maybe he's going to the gym, but like there's the scene in the Bronze where all the whatever's happening and he throws a vampire. Like, he's gotten really good at it. And it's used selectively, right? Sometimes they're good, but they start to get consistent with the, you know, Xander can handle himself in a fight. He may need some backup, but, you know, I mean, mainly this is all Allie's episode. Everybody else is just backup.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then we get the last scene of Buffy and Willow together, and Willow's like, I'm just going to be regular Willow from now on, and everybody can just, you know, walk all over me. But we find out that Vamp Willow actually did do something good because Percy not only did his homework, he did it twice, and he gives her an apple. And see, this is why I actually like Percy.
And he did it twice because he's a moron.
Do you think she ate that apple before lunch?
Yes, absolutely.
Baby steps.
Yeah. I do want to bring up one thing about the fighty scene, though. Willow winds up looking really pretty good after getting a drum kit to the face.
Well, because it's a...
I mean, Vamp Willow throws her into a fucking drum kit.
Yeah, well, it's because...
Like, full force.
It's because it's a funny episode. You can't have your...
I know,
unless
but
it's
it's
a
like...
dramatic episode.
But, like, not even a cut. It's like...
Why would
and
you want to mess with Allie's pretty face?
I don't, but it's like, it's like she gets, I'm pretty sure she gets the side of a cymbal to the face. And it's like, yeah, that's...
I've cut myself with a cymbal before. Not from a drum kit, but from marching band. And it hurts like
okay.
It's a unique experience.
This is why I'm a guitarist.
Yeah, because nothing ever happens to guitarists, you know, like...
Right, no, we can just... No, we just lose eyes when strings break. But, you know...
I think it probably bludgeoned someone to death with a ukulele if you tried really hard.
Oh, yeah, that's... Yeah, but you have to really try.
I mean, well, if it's a really expensive solid body, you know, solid wood body, you'd probably be okay. Most of the fiberboard ones that you get for like $50, and couldn't kill someone with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a carbon fiber one on the way that you theoretically can like play baseball with. So I'm prepared.
Anyways, so final thoughts on Dopplegangland.
I just really enjoy this episode. It's so much. I mean, I really had to dig for problems, which makes for a really nice change. And also, we see a bit of the whole Faith Mayer storyline, but you get to see Faith just letting go and having a nice day for once in her whole life. And it's like they even made it so that the Faith stuff didn't insert a whole downer part to this episode.
Yeah, I mean, she only has 2 scenes, and one of them is a great scene where she gets to, you know, get like a PlayStation, and it's and a new apartment.
A gorgeous new apartment.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just a delightful episode. It's really, I mean, the acting is really good. Allie is so on point. And it's just so well written. It's Joss writing at its best.
Yeah, for sure. We found more things, I think, when we all got together to sort of talk about.
Yeah.
But originally I was like, I don't have a lot to say. It's zippy, it's fun. It is Joss writing at its best. And in terms of actor direction, it's Joss at its best. Because he is more known as an actor director, you know. Yeah. Everybody pulls their weight. Cordy has some great little, really fun moments. You get Faith having a happy day. Yeah, this is a great episode. Iconic episode of Buffy. And I love it.
And it's gonna be all downhill from here.
No.
Other than, for me, the couple of throwaway bits that I could do with, we've talked about Willow's sexuality, and we will continue to talk about it. And I could do without the skanky line. I don't find this episode terribly problematic, which is a miracle.
How'd that happen?
I know. It's paced really well. Everybody's on with their comedic timing. It's just, I think everyone was having a very good day, or a very good series of days.
I love this episode. This is one of my favorite episodes. I have found a lot of things to pick apart, but that's because that's what I do. You know,
Yeah.
I
Oh, no.
always, every single thing I watch ever, I'm like, well, here's a thing that I'm not really too sure about. And certainly with this, where it's like, well, we need to fill like an hour and a half of podcast time, I am going to find shit to talk about. Other than, oh my god, I love this so much. But, oh my god, I love this so much.
It's a
I was a little worried coming into this recording because, honestly, I have a note that literally says, honestly, I don't know how I'm going to take notes on this. I could just keep quoting dialogue.
I have a lot of dialogue quotes in my notes. I have, like, and Logan, I think you're right. Like, it's not problematic. There isn't like, there's the Willow and the gay stuff and the skanky, but other than that, it's not. I'm not like, oh my god, it's so whatever. It's just really fun and well done, and kudos to Joss.
We could argue
There's a
Vamp Willow sexually assaults or like harasses, Prime Willow.
But she's
eh,
evil.
what is it?
She's an evil vampire, and I mean, she also does talk about the slavery in the Wishverse. But it's such a good line that I'm going to let it go. It's like we have people in chains and we ride them like ponies.
Yes. And of course, there is inappropriate touching.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you know what? Nothing is ever going to be not problematic. There's always going to be some little problematic thing, but this is a pretty good one.
This is a great one. Xander, I didn't want him to shut up. Xander's great. I love that they bring Anya back, and she's not fully there yet. But I love Emma's expressive face. Like, she has the most expressive, beautiful
she's
face.
so much
I
fun.
love Cordy's whole monologuing and her cocktail. Like, I really, this is A+ episode for me.
We are not the only people who love this episode. This is a favorite of Sophia Crawford, Allie Hannigan, and Joss Whedon. Unsurprisingly actually Sophia Crawford's a little surprising, but she's allowed to have an opinion about what's a really good episode.
What?
I mean, but Allie is not surprising.
Well,
at
it's
all.
her episode. It's a fun, hilarious. She has other episodes where she's really present, but it's all the darker stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is her like chance to be just so funny and cool and wear a leather outfit and like be a badass, but also be Willow and be fuzzy and she gets to do everything there.
And also, we just haven't had a comedy episode for a while.
It's been a while.
Like a straight comedy episode.
Yeah.
I mean, not that the show is humorless, but this is a straight up comedy.
I think the last one was the Zeppo, and we've already discussed we didn't like that one. So this is a comedy episode that we actually enjoyed. So of trivia notes, I don't have any trivia other than the band at the Bronze was Kay's choice, and they performed Virgin State of Mind, which is one of my favorite songs that they played on Buffy.
Mine as well. Go look.
Yeah, it is on my regular shuffle list.
Yeah, go Spotify Kay's Choice, y'all. It's good. They were really good.
So we have letters, or I should say we have a letter.
We've got mail.
Woohoo! We do have mail. So we got this over the website. It is from Emily/Evan. I just want to say I love your podcast. Feels like sitting down with like-minded Buffy friends. I missed you when you were on hiatus, but I'm stoked to have you starting up again. I'm saving my pennies for your t-shirts. Thank you for being nerdy, queer-friendly people and sharing that with the world. My life has been fucked up in the last few years. More than normal, yay Saturn's return. And this podcast has been a relief in so many ways. It's a safe place to be secretly queer while I figure that out. I'm a filmmaker, so I love the thoughtful and industry-informed analysis, going through trauma recovery, so helpful to hear discussions and acknowledgement of the problematic Buffy shit. It's my go-to depression binge and the extended Lord of the Rings DVDs, but around the time your podcast started, I wasn't able to watch Buffy because of all of the triggering tropes and we'll just say assault stuff. Listening to the podcast helped me learn to control the PTSD symptoms more, exposure therapy, and not just feel like my whole world and identity were stolen by trauma. So thank you for existing and being who you are. Can't wait for the next episode. Grr, arg.
Oh,
my god!
Wow.
Thank
crying
you.
right now.
I
I'm
know. I'm just like,
I'm very impressed with us.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'm
Emily
really happy.
/ Evan, you are awesome, and thank you
Yes.
for such nice words.
Yeah.
I'm getting all verklempt here. Seriously.
Yeah. Like,
Ah.
this kind of message is like, we don't hear from a lot of people, but like getting a message like this, it's like every bit of work we put into doing this makes it worth it, to know that there's somebody who loves the podcast this much and that it helps them. We just wanted to have an excuse to talk to each other and to talk about Buffy, because we love Buffy. And so that it's actually helping you is just, we love you so much.
Yeah,
Like,
that means a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we each come from really diverse backgrounds, I think, and
Mhm.
I think those experiences and where we all come from, I think, add so much to the podcast. I have a lot of training in psychology and social work and recovery and all that stuff, and Claire and Jan and everybody creates worlds and stories, and Logan is the most politically queer person I've ever met. So, and David is the most amazing human being in a man shape that I know. So,
Thank you, I think.
oh, it's a compliment. David is our little unicorn of great guys. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that letter. As MC said, we don't hear from people a lot. We don't get tons of feedback, but getting something like that is really special.
And it does sound like you've been going through a very tough time lately, and I don't know, if it's starting to get better yet, but just, hold tight, because it will get better. You will be able to get through this. You're very strong. Just being able to reach out to a group of strangers, basically, and tell them what's been going on with you, like, that is true strength. And so,
Seriously, that is one of the most brave letters feedback I think we've ever gotten, or I've ever gotten anything else. And it's the fact that you were able to articulate it is just an amazing thing. So the fact that we've been able to help at all is just a good thing. And we're all looking at each other. We're all getting all nice and teary here. So you touched us as much as we've touched you on an emotional level. And that is so groovy. So thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much, really.
But yes, thank you so much for writing, and please, everyone else, send us letters, because we do love to hear from the people who listen to this podcast.
It's nice not to be in a vacuum.
One of the nicest things that anybody who appreciates art, writing, podcasts, any kind of creative thing, is to actually get feedback, to be told that what you're doing, that somebody actually is aware of what you're doing, and that somebody actually likes it, or they find it funny, or they find it good, or it's done something really nice for them. So just a general, if you like something, give your artists feedback, because they always want it, and they always crave it. So otherwise you feel like you're just screaming into the void. So
Emily / Evan, please keep us updated on how you're doing, and
yes,
let us
please
know.
Don't be a stranger.
Just be stranger.
Just be strange. I like it.
So I think that brings us to the end of this episode. Next time it's gonna be interesting, because we'll be reviewing Enemies. I sure will have things to say. So until then,
It'll be different.
It will be different. That, yes. So until then, grr arg.
Grr arg.
Grr arg.
Grr arg.
We'd like to thank everyone who downloaded the podcast, and an extra special thanks to everyone who shared, liked, and subscribed on social media. If you'd like your questions or comments read on the show, you can contact us on our website, returntothehellmouth.com, on YouTube, Tumblr, and Facebook at Return to the Hellmouth, on Twitter at HellmouthReturn, or on email at returntothehellmouth@gmail.com. We'll be sure to read your comments on the show. Be sure to rate our show at iTunes and Stitcher, and check out our show merchandise on TeePublic and Redbubble. See you on Tuesday.
Grr, arg.